I'm always happy when the 3-2-1 works, and I always stop and notice that I'm mindful that I'm interdependent on the internet to be able to be live every week. And I don't want to forget my name. I'm Dr. Tovah Goldfine. This is TMS Roundtable Recovery. And I am one privileged human being to be able to find people like you, Gemma, and guests and neuroscientists and doctors and therapists and actors and movie directors and authors. And they even want to be on my show. They want to be here. They want to express. They want to share. They want to inspire. They want to educate, because, you know, helping others is such a normal human quality. And when we can do it in this way, and I'm grateful for Facebook, because we get to really get it out there. And our world, the mind body world, is such an amazing world. And there's so much amazing things happening. And we get to talk about it and educate people and help people heal themselves. Ultimately, there's a doctor within. So tonight, and it's not my normal Wednesday night, but thank you, Gemma, for hopping on a Thursday. Gemma McFall is a PRT coach. We met through the pain reprocessing therapy, which we both love, and it really helps a lot of people. But you have something very unique, and I'm going to let you talk about it. And how I like to kind of share with the listeners is, first of all, I want to put your name up here. I like to kind of say, can you start from hello and tell us, first of all, you know, you happen to have healed some really rough years of chronic pain. So can you give me a timeline of how this might have happened, and then what led, and slowly, like step by step, how you can leave the listeners with some tools and insights that helped you, but that maybe, again, this is a such a personal thing, but we're all human. That's what we have in common. That's what we can all benefit from, what you can share. So go ahead, and thank you for joining.
Oh, well, before we start, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, especially when you look back at the guests you've had on the show. I was like, oh, I'm amongst the stars. I'm really happy that we could do this. So yeah, I'll just share my story in a kind of a brief step-by-step process. So I'm from the UK, and we decided to relocate to Dubai many years ago. About 2 weeks before we were set to pack up our bags and move, I had a dance injury. I was doing a dance, call it like workout type thing, and my back clicked, and I was in pain. And normally it would just heal something like that, but I was a little nervous because I was moving to Dubai. What if it doesn't get better? I even thought, what if there are no doctors in Dubai, which obviously I can now realize is ridiculous. And so, yeah, I went to see a doctor straight off the bat, got some medication, moved to Dubai, and the pain didn't get better. It gradually got worse. Now, at the time, I was working in human resources. I was a director of HR in a health chain. And I was like skipping out of work to have physio sessions. And, actually, I'm saying it like it's nothing. And I'm thinking back now, and it was so annoying to have this back pain that just didn't get better. And gradually.
So you were angry at your body.
Well, you know what? I was angry at the person that caused the injury. That's where all my anger was originally.
You're angry at the person who caused the injury.
Because yeah, basically I was doing an acrobat thing in this dance thing, and a girl pulled my arm, and I took all her weight on one arm. Yeah. So yeah, for a long time the anger was on this, and what's so more annoying is there was a photo of it on Facebook, the exact moment when it happened, because we were in like a pyramid shape, and every year Facebook says, this is your memories from 1 year ago, from 2 years ago.
Wow.
I was like, if
then
I
you're angry. So you're angry at the woman you dance with, the Facebook, and you're also angry at Gemma for not healing.
And the doctors, because they couldn't help me. Anyway, over the course of like 8
Wait a
years,
minute, you had a back sprain. You sprained your back. Why couldn't they help you?
because it was neural pathway pain, and I didn't know this at the time. I absolutely thought it was structural. It was on the MRI L5S1. You know how it is, and yeah. So over the course of about 8 years, the pain progressively got worse to the point of, well, from a obvious point of view, I stopped running, I stopped all the dancing, I stopped wearing high shoes. I actually got rid of all my high shoes. I started wearing the most ridiculous back brace to work underneath my
No
skin.
way. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It was ridiculous. And at the time I worked in a hotel where appearance is everything. And I remember being told by my boss, can you write a grooming policy which says that girls must wear heels? And I remember thinking, this is an indirect way of you telling me to wear heels.
Right.
So I had heels on my desk, and when I walked around the hotel, I put the heels on, and then when I got back to the office, I took them off.
Wow.
It's really silly.
Can I ask why, like now that you know the work and just to, so at this point, you're not thinking it's something emotional and that you reacted to not at all. You're just thinking they can't figure it out. Something's wrong with my back and I'm just going to have to, and you're saying 10 years, a decade of this.
By the time it got fixed, yeah. So well, fixed is the wrong word, isn't it? No, and you know what? I would, if somebody had at that point had showed me the Sarno book or anything, I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have registered because I wasn't bad enough. I kept thinking in my head, this will get better if I just do one more physio
Right.
session. If I just have one more injection in my spine, it might do it. And I just had this in my head.
Yeah,
and
well, that's the way people feel. Like the doctors missed something. I'll get better. So go ahead. So go ahead. Keep giving the details.
Yeah. So of course it came and went. It wasn't always terrible. It sometimes it was really bad. Sometimes it was slightly better. But nevertheless, obviously, I didn't start doing the sport again. And then eventually, we moved to Sri Lanka. We relocated.
To Sri Lanka?
Yeah, we lived in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka in India.
It's a different country, but it's next to India. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like we're not even talking about the stress of moving. I don't care how happy you are with your husband and how amazing your kids are. This is a lot for a human body without pain.
Like, you know what? Let me backtrack a little bit. So in the summer of the year we were moving, my husband was made redundant. So all the benefits came onto my contract. So I had no choice. In Dubai, you get a very generous 45 days maternity leave. So I took my 45 days and went straight back to work afterwards, shortly after he was made redundant. So I really had no choice. I had to work. So I would leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning, having just fed like a 1-year-old and a 6-month-old. And then I would work until like 7:30, 8 at night, and then come back. And if I was lucky, I was able to get them into bed before they fell asleep,
How can somebody heal even with the, anti-inflammatory working? How can somebody heal? Wow.
So that was like my daily routine. Yeah, and I had like this stupid ibuprofen gel was on my back every day. Like, do you know stupid stuff? Like, I changed my pillow.
Sometimes it works for people, and then we never meet them. But then sometimes it doesn't work.
Yes, and I still have this stupid chair. This is a Miller chair. These cost more than like cars. They're ridiculous.
Remember, you're talking to a chiropractor here.
So, anyways, I was doing this, and then my husband, he went ahead to Sri Lanka. So I stayed in Dubai with the kids. So at this point, I'm still working full time. And there was a period of, I don't know, like a month and a half where he was there and I was still in Dubai with kids. And I was working my notice period. And then I had to pack up the villa. I had to pack an entire villa with a 6-month-old, a 1-year-old. And so I actually flew my mom out from the UK to help me because there's no way with back pain I can do all of this stuff, right?
I don't know how you didn't have a nervous breakdown, or did you?
But this is the interesting thing, because I didn't feel stressed at all. I felt like a hero. Like I never missed a deadline. I never let one down. No one ever would have described me as stressed in the corporate world at all. Like, I had back pain, yes, but no stress, no anxiety at all. So obviously I can see now that I had back pain instead of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point. To the
But I didn't
listeners,
know
very good
this.
point. Yeah.
Anyway, we finally in January 2017 got to Sri Lanka. I got there to be with my partner, and oh god, we were in the tower block. We were living in the tower block on like the 30 something floor, and the tuk-tuk. You know what a tuk-tuk is? It's like a little, like in India they have the little motorbikes that you put people in the back.
Yeah.
Going around the street, beep, 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 like the noise, the congestion. I had no friends at all, no family, just me, my husband, and these two little babies, and back pain in a really in a really high tower block. And then about 2 or 3 weeks into this,
This
my
is 5 years, 6 years of chronic
this
pain
this
since
is
the
about
injury.
9. Yeah, I think this is this is just before I figured it all out.
So how
So
many years was this were you dealing with this?
8, 9, 8, I think by this point, yeah. So he then had to go to Abu Dhabi for work. So I was literally in Sri Lanka on my own with back pain with these two little kids. And at that
Unbelievable.
point, just to sort of give a feel for how it was, I couldn't lift a 6-month-old baby, my daughter, into the high chair. I couldn't, the angle of picking up a baby that's
Right.
lying on the
Right.
floor into a high chair,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
was a no. So I had to emergency hire a nanny to help me while he was away. Now I'm laughing about it because I can see how completely ridiculous. I didn't realize all of what I now know. Anyway, to fast forward a little bit, I was desperate. I needed surgery, urgently needed surgery. And I found a fantastic surgeon in Singapore who said he's never met me. He saw my MRI scan and he went, no problem. We can book you in for surgery. You just fly from Sri Lanka to Singapore. We'll give you the surgery and then you can fly back. And I thought, great, I got a solution. I was so excited. And then the insurance company declined the, what do you call it? Like when you say you're going to go and get something, they have to approve it. They declined it. And the reason they declined it was this particular surgeon was very famous for doing unnecessary surgeries. So they wanted to review my case. And I was crushed because at this point I was thinking like,
what a drama. Look how you
yeah.
created this drama in your life. Do you need that much attention?
Yes, exactly. It was ridiculous. And then they do this second opinion thing in Cigna. 3 different surgeons around the world review your case, and then they tell you what they think that you should do based on all your case history and the MRIs and everything. All 3 surgeons came back with different recommendations. One said I needed a blade. I can't remember what it was called. Microdiscectomy. That was it.
Right. Microdiscectomy.
Yeah, and then another one said, I think it was something about fusing something together, and I was like, that doesn't sound good either. And the third one was like, just carry on with physio and see what happens. So none of these surgeons could agree on anything. And then I discovered, because at this time I was learning to be a coach, and one of the trainers on the course, he said, we were just doing a coaching call. I was the client, and I said, I really want someone to cut my back off. I can't live like this anymore. I was so miserable. And the trainer on the call, he was like, look, read this book.
Oh, I love it. What an angel.
I know.
Sort of pixie dust from heaven.
Yes. But never, ever, ever does the trainer on the call give the client feedback. They're there purely to give feedback to the coach who's practicing coaching.
Right.
So he kind of like went against his job. And I thought, wow, he's really gone out on a limb here to help me in front of everyone. Yeah. So I bought the book within about...
Which book was it?
Healing Back Pain. It was the healing
It's
back
in
pain.
30 languages. Dr. Sarno's book is in 30 languages.
Wow.
It's
I can believe
unbelievable.
it.
It says that in All the Rage. If
Yeah.
anyone hasn't seen All the Rage, please send me. It's $5. It's an amazing movie, and Dr. Sarno's wife in the movie goes to the bookshelf and shows it's in 30 languages. I mean, this guy, and it's so funny because everybody thought he was a quack. A lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't, and he's helped so many people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable the unfolding of what happened when somebody gets, like,
Totally.
Alan Gordon throws the book across the room, someone else tears it up, burns it, someone else just puts it on the shelf. Fascinating.
And I wouldn't have been ready. If somebody had given me this book back in Dubai, I wouldn't have been ready. I needed to be desperate. I needed to like kind of rock bottom.
And I want people to hear that sometimes we have to hit rock bottom. And that rock bottom is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. If you can somehow see the purpose and meaning in rock bottom, which is it's a mindset.
Yeah. Although when I found out about the mind-body approach, I was then really super angry at the entire medical community.
Yeah,
There was a
that's
lot
sad. You wanted to pill and surgery, and wow. Talk a little bit about that. You were really angry at the medical community.
I was angry that nobody told me this. I wasted all of my 30s in pain. And I was like, mid-20s to mid-30s, I was in pain. And it took me a long time to let go of the anger, because then I realized it's not that they didn't tell me, they didn't know. If they knew, they would have told me. They didn't know. So then I thought to myself, right, I can do this. I started reading his book, and I thought, I tick all the personality traits, all the.
Did you Danny Fagan? I always quote her. She said on the show, it was one of the first shows with Rose and I, like 3 years ago, and she said the book was written for me, and I didn't even have to use a. I didn't even have to, emphasize it, and I'll never forget that.
It was the same, and I remember just turning page after page. I was hooked on the book, and then I thought, right, if I can get rid of my back pain, I will. Because at this point I was training to be a coach. I thought, right, if I can get rid of my back pain, I will redirect my coaching practice, focus on helping people with pain, because it's not fair that people don't know how to they don't know about this. So I made that right then and there. I decided, and so I started a logbook, and it was just like in a like rubbish little like a diary like this, like a rubbish cheap thing, and it said day 1, and then I wrote what I did on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and I was just keeping it an evidence log. So every day I was writing down proof of the fact that it was neural pathway pain, and then every day I was. And this kind of brings us on to the approach I now use with clients. Every day I was writing down what I was doing that was bringing me joy. Like, how was I leaning into my greatest strengths and doing something that was going to lift me up, And then eventually at about...
And what other things were you, at this point, you were reading the book, were you journaling? Would you go back to exercise? What kind of things were you doing in the beginning? Besides what you had been learning about the personality, what other things were you doing to help start to feel a little better?
Good question. So this day 1, day 2 book was very good. And at this point, I knew I would be heading back to the UK for the summer. And I found the TMS wiki. There's like 2 free training programs on there.
Yeah, so I send everybody the 21-day. I'm going to write it again here.
Yeah.
I send everybody the 21-day recovery. It's free.
Yeah.
And I've even I copied it. Like, I have a booklet, but I tell people they can do 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
So you found that program. What's the second program?
So the first one, that 21-day thing, I think I did it in 1 day. I just put it all in 1 day.
It's your personality.
And then the second program on there, it's I think it's 49 days. or 39 or 49 days. And each day it tells you what to journal about. And it tells you to like read a success story. And then there's certain like prompts that you have to answer. And it was so simple.
Tell me
And
what it's called. I don't think I know. I think
it's called structured. There's one called Structured Education Program. That's the 49-day one.
So what's it called again?
Structured Education Program. It's on the same website, just above it.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Spell it for me, honey. Spell it for me.
Structured, like
structured.
Structured, yeah.
Structured. Gina, it's on the TMS wiki. It's free. It'll say 21-day recovery. You'll see a picture of Alan Gordon. That's it. But this is also, I think, by Alan Gordon.
I'm not. Yeah, maybe it's directly next to it on the wiki program.
Structured. Say it again, sweetie.
It's Structured Education Program. I think.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll find it. And also, I've been wanting to every Saturday. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Every Saturday, Matthew Rosett, Matthew was very involved with Michael Galinsky in the beginning of the movie promotion. And I think we had a broadcast with Michael Galinsky. It's on the YouTube channel. And Matthew is also a TMS coach and very involved in hypnotherapy. And he goes every Saturday with various people. They have a dialogue. They have come and ask questions. It's every Saturday. And I can't promote it enough on Facebook because there's so many things going on. But every Saturday, and there's an opportunity to ask questions. And Wiki is like the pioneer, like TMS Wiki. It was started by, Forrest Smith, which is his Facebook name, is really Rob Munger. He's involved in the PPDA. He himself healed from some muscle connective tissue thing and fibromyalgia. And he started the TMS Wiki. And then there was Alan Gordon. And then Rob Munger, Forrest Smith, was very involved in gathering the book.
Yeah.
That was the thank you book to Dr. John Sarno in the movie, from all the people. I don't know how exactly it started, but he was very involved in the very beginning stages. And so another wonderful, anchor of this amazing work is TMS Wiki. And, we want people to use this. We want people to utilize. We want people to see the free information and to apply it. And this is now I would love you to talk about so you got better in X amount of days, months, and you began to study the Gallup thing. So move into that, because it's so exciting. So interesting.
Well, do you know what? As soon as I read the book and I thought, there's a link here to personality, and I realized I had these personality traits. Because I'd come from the corporate world in HR, I had been trained already as a Gallup Strengths coach, which Gallup is a company that it's got a really good personality tool called Gallup Clifton Strengths.
Is Gallup the name of the guy who invented it?
Gallup, the name of the company. It's a big research company. And so I thought, right, this is handy. I just need to figure out how to better utilize my personality. And so I started using everything I had learned as a coach that I'd been doing for people in the corporate world, started doing it for myself on a recovery journey. And light bulb moment was just going off every day, because basically
you had no time. So that's another way to get rid of pain, because we just get distracted and we live our life.
Well, exactly. So when you do the assessment, you figure out what your natural strengths are. So for example, one of my strengths is learner, which means I just love learning. Give me something to learn and I am alive. Like, I literally feel alive. And so as an experiment, I thought, right, every single day I've got to use my learner strength. So I started watching TED Talks. Do you know what TED Talks are? It's a global isn't it? Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And I would just pick a different TED Talk every day for 20 minutes. And for 20 minutes, I would have less pain.
Wow.
And then that was evidence that when I use my strengths, I have no pain. And so in my little journal as like evidence. Another strength I have is discipline, which means I really, this is such a geeky strength. I really like organizing things and putting systems and processes in place. But because I have back pain, I had stopped doing anything like that. That's like additional work. So I'd stopped doing it. So then I made a plan where every single day I will use my discipline strength and in some way, shape, or form organize the house. So one day I would open the cutlery drawer and I would empty everything out and I would wash it all and I'd put it all back in nicely.
And you'd have less pain.
I would literally have no pain because Let
me ask you a question. Do people take this test and fill out things and answer questions and then you get a sense? Okay.
Yeah, so I do it with all clients I work with, before even the first session. So I know who they are, right? So this is one way that knowing your strengths can help you feel kind of alive. And Gallup have done so much research around it. They say, based on their research, people who know and use their strengths are 6 times more engaged at work and 3 times as likely to have a really good quality of life. And I thought, I know this is true because it's huge research. And so I thought, I'm just going to apply this because if I can improve my quality of life, even if I still have pain, if I can improve my quality of life, this is good. But yeah, the results were just amazing.
Wow. Is it a Gallup strength test specifically for business or life? Like, because
it's a corporate tool. So originally it was a corporate tool, but it's so popular. There's now strength-based marriage, strength-based parenting, strength-based religion. Like, it's because your personality is your personality at work, at home, at church, everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't turn your personality on and off. Although I have found that my clients at least, with chronic pain, they are using their strengths at work and they're getting home and they're not using them, or vice versa. And that's they were not having pain when they were at work using their strengths. They would get home and then not use them and then get pain. So,
wow. Yeah, well, so tell me more about, so now that people know that they have certain strengths, because we all probably say, well, this is my strength, but we may not be using it to serve us.
Yeah.
So basically when you get the information, what are the different tips and tools that people, besides awareness, like, because we all do better with meditation. We all, I think, do well when we journal and visit ourselves and know ourselves. So we're basically, you're having people talk more about that, the application and implementation and other ways how they use it besides just knowing.
Oh gosh, there's so many ways. So the first most important thing, I think, if you're familiar with Carol Matte, the childhood trauma expert, he says that humans have 2 needs: authenticity and attachment. And we need attachment. It is the most important thing. As a child, you need your parents to like you, and you need to be attached to them. The second need is authenticity. We need to feel like we are truly ourselves and we are, shining the light that we're supposed to shine and being the best version we can be. But when push comes to shove, we will sacrifice authenticity in order to have
love.
The love. Yeah, right. And so what's happening with a lot of people is they want to fit in to either their family or their workplace, and they're squashing parts of their personality, sometimes completely suppressing it in order to fit in. And so one of the first things I do is to kind of help them to see, from your strengths, which are you using and why and when, how does it light you up? because many times people have become detached from who they are, especially with pain, because over time you lose your identity and you just well, at least I became the girl with the back pain. I was no longer using my strengths at all I was thinking about is getting out through the day, you know.
Yeah. And then there's like, look, we know about the Sarnos, people pleasers and perfectionists, and I think you could just talk about that. It's similar, but it's how you're using that. Like, okay, so we know that we're a perfectionist. We know that we're a people pleaser. It doesn't help to just know it. You're
Yeah.
helping people really implement and apply, in their life and get results and get, make changes, evolve.
Yeah. So one of the things it frustrates me a little bit when I see this in the TMS world, because if you are a people pleaser, a perfectionist, whatever, and you're labeling yourself as these things, and that's your personality, it is very hard to change your personality. You were born with this personality, and all the neural pathways in your brain, they're set. That is your personality. So my goal is never to change somebody's personality. You are who you are. But what I do help them to do is, what I do help them to see is, why are they a people pleaser? And I would never say people pleaser is a personality trait. I would go back to their strengths and say, well, maybe it's because you have empathy and that's one of your strengths. Or maybe it's because you have harmony. People with harmony, it's a great strength. They don't have conflict, but there's like a lot of plus sides to harmony. They're great at solving conflicts if they allow themselves, brave enough to
No, I
do.
mean, like, I always say this story about that. I used to go to therapy and ask the therapist to make me less sensitive. And I
Yeah,
wouldn't leave until they like somehow help me get a thicker skin. Because I knew
yeah,
that if I walked out of that office with thicker skin, I'd be happy,
yeah,
and then, so I now say, sensitivity is the new strong. I
yeah,
mean, you're sensitive and strong. Sensitivity is awareness.
yeah,
Let's use that power. Let's use it to serve you. So it's
yeah.
beautiful what you're saying.
I remember you remind me of a client I had a long time ago. She got her strengths, she did the assessment, she got the strengths, and I'm so excited. I knew what strength she's got. And I said, oh, how do you feel about your strengths? What's your first impression? And she burst into tears and she went, I hate all of them. She's like, all of these have given me back pain. And she was really upset. But that's good in a way, because the first thing is that, okay, let's look at these strengths and see, how has empathy helped you? How has it served you? How does it help you with the kids? And help her to see just how great strength of empathy is. And then she can start to own it and see, like, when is a good time to use it and not.
Yeah, but
Um,
I can see, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to see how people could get their strengths from your results. And honestly, I don't want to be like that. I want to change. It doesn't work for me. It makes me a victim.
yeah,
And you're basically saying we can't change things. We can evolve into, like, even when Joe Dispenza says, breaking the habit of being yourself, it's kind of what you're saying. We're not changing yourself. It's changing a habit. I like to call it evolving into a better way to use your personality traits. So I guess that's what you said
exactly.
to that woman. Like, let's use these. No, I hate them. I hate them. Well, you know what? That's what's by you accepting is part of the healing.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't take much to help people to see how amazing they are with their strengths. Yeah, and just going back to that point about evolving, there's two things with each strength. There's what we call the balcony and the basement. The balcony is where we're using the strength really well. It's serving us, it's serving everybody else, and we feel alive. And there's the basement, which is, this strength is now not serving anyone. It's getting in the way, that it's too much. And so helping clients to see, where are they on this scale for each of their strengths? Are they in the balcony or the basement? Do they get to use their strength, or for some reason are they being stopped from using it, whether it's by a boss or by themselves? And the easiest way to sort of for me to describe it to clients on the first session, I do the top 5 report because I don't want to overwhelm anybody with like all of them. So there's 5 strengths, and I'm like, each of these strengths is like an oxygen tube going into you that's going to give you energy.
Great
And every
explanation.
time you get to use them, you're going to feel alive and like and have energy. And so we look at the flow of like what's working for them and not. But Tova, I'm just thinking maybe we've talked a lot about people pleaser and this type of thing, but one of the things I see an awful lot is coming up with people is the strength of analytical. There's 2 I see quite often, analytical, and there's one called deliberative. Analytical people ask why all the time. Why is this the case? Why? And so sometimes I see that they actually are using their strengths to help them get over the chronic pain, but they're using it in a bad way. So someone with analytical will just keep on asking why on a physical level, or why can't I get there? Why?
It's almost like their ego is like, cannot believe they're in pain when they're so successful, and
Yes.
then we teach them to be curious, but like curious is like weak. I want to get to the answer. And that's part of this sort of, not being able to accept your reality and realizing that this is not something you've learned, as a child. Like it's a very difficult thing, because I always say smart and sensitive people get TMS.
Yeah.
People that are not thinking about this, on the farm, they don't care. And they're not getting sick. So it's not like, it's, again, in order to own your power, to utilize your power, to see this as an opportunity. And I'm sure you get to all that stuff with, so talk more about how people can apply. So the person who's analyzing is analytical. How can you get that person to be curious and to lighten up on themselves?
So let me give you like a real example.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
So I'm working, actually, I'm working with a medical professional at the minute who's got chronic pain, which is ironic, isn't it?
Not really.
He's so smart. So he has the strength of a deliberative, which means he's a really, really deep thinker. And so we default to what is our natural strength. So his brain has defaulted into, I need to think deeply about what's wrong with me. And his brain is 100% focused.
The deeper I think, the more I'll get to the answer.
Yes, but because for him it's a natural strength, he's also getting a lot of energy. It's addictive. It's addictive to keep using our strengths.
Excellent.
So he's going in a circle like this, trying and that's all he can think of. But just shining a light on it and going, you know what? This is one of your greatest strengths. If you did not have pain right now, what would you be doing with that really smart brain of yours? And it doesn't take long for them to go, oh, do you know what? I'm really into cars. I might go and start researching about like old cars, or I love travel. I'm gonna, and so I send them off to research a topic, light them up.
No, what's really important for, and part of all the neuroplastic work we're doing is to focus on your sensation, but with a lens of safety, and also to distract the mind because, I had a client once who would never feel pain when she was socializing, and only feel pain when she was at home. And she's like, how can I bring this experience into my home? I'm like, who's at home? Well, my son and my husband, and I'm miserable. I'm miserable because of this, and this, and this. But mostly it wasn't them as much as just that what she felt in her home and what she felt when she was with friends, and how she felt that attention or that attachment or that authenticity, which is another deep level of the, wow.
If I was to link that to strengths, there's some strengths are more relationship-based strengths, and some are more thinking strengths, some are more doing strengths. Wow. So she probably, if she did this, would end up having relationship strengths. And there's one specific one called woo, which stands for winning others over. So people with woo love to be with a stranger, and they love turning a stranger into a friend. They get so much energy from that conversion of stranger to friend. But then after they're now a friend, they don't get as much energy being with that person, and they would be happy to move on and do it for the next one. So if she knew that she had woo, the only slight tweak that she would need is to go, you know what, when you're at the supermarket, talk to the cashier, talk to the people in the elevators, talk to the and it's just acknowledging, when I'm at home, I don't get to use woo because there's no strangers in my home. So when she's at home, she needs to tap into one of her other strengths.
Wow, beautiful. You're really talking about changing the brain and making new habits, making new neural circuits.
It's effectively like understanding who you are in different environments. And I always think of them as volume switches. You need to dial up a strength in this environment and dial it down. But if you're going to dial one strength down, you better dial another one up. Otherwise, you're not you anymore.
Beautiful. And so you're obviously seeing people reduce pain or accept their pain in a way, and that gets reduced. Or are you working with anybody that's helping them with fibromyalgia or autoimmune or different things, and seeing things shift for them in their immune system and in their sensations?
So for me, I think because of the nature of my story, I tend to attract clients who I can tell you the exact type of clients that seem to come to me. They're people who have got back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, and they all say, I used to be sporty and now I'm not. And I think because I do a lot of cycling and running, and they see me on the social media being very, very active.
Yeah.
So I tend to attract kind of like people who used to be sporty, mostly in the corporate world.
Sure.
So yeah, and also, if I was to be honest, and I do not know if there is any research on this at all, but what I do tend to find is people with musculoskeletal things, it tends to be because of personality, whereas fibromyalgia and those types of things tends to be because of childhood and trauma in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
When it boils down to it, it still comes back to the brain and the mind and the body and it's funny. I was talking to this chiropractor who will be on my show, this summer, who met Dr. Schrubener and studied with him for a few days because he really got into the mind body work and understood pain. He wrote a book called Pain is Your Superpower. And he said, I don't think I want to call it mind body. He said, the feelings are so important, and we don't want to negate the power of what the feelings are. So in there's absolute chapters and chapters of talking about what's going on with the feelings, because the feelings, the emotions created the kind of personality, or like, how did you tie in, and then the repressed emotions and what's kind of causing the brain? How do you bring that all in together for somebody?
I don't know if I'll be answering your exact question here.
That's okay, you don't have to.
I feel like people, I know I like structure, and I see a lot of people going, give me practical tools, I want a structure, I want a flow to go through. So I actually do try and go through the same process with everyone, and it's called the 4 Ps. So the first P is understanding pain and co-education. If someone comes to me on the back of reading a book or a podcast or whatever, they probably know enough. And I make a real big point of going, right, you know enough now, stop researching, especially if they're analytical or one of these. So they learn just enough to get it, and then we'll do somatic tracking sometimes if it's appropriate on pain. Then the next thing is personality. And I always do personality before digging around with emotions and stuff, because if I can make someone feel mentally strong, like there is nothing better than figuring out what your strengths are and feeling amazing and strong, capable, and I see people light up. And because by this point they've already got the science, the fear is starting to go. I'm the biggest cheerleader, you know, and the momentum is really great.
They're partnering with these people and they feel hope. They
Yes.
feel like they're not alone. They feel hope. And this is the good thing about hiring a coach. And but like we've talked about this, our job is to have them be able to be on their own and do this for themselves and be their own coach. And how many times are we finding our clients bullying themselves, beating themselves up? They're never enough, guilt-ridden for something they did, and they're back in the sewer again, and they're climbing out.
Yeah.
Because one guy today saying, well, 11 years of, or 11 months of, this anxiety, how can I convince myself that I can get better? And I'm like, well, did you ever stop to think that this is a journey and that you're getting better and that there's a purpose and mission? And nobody thinks like that, yet that's the way out.
Yeah.
Pain is an opportunity. Dr. Scrivener's colleague, Rebecca Kennedy, always talks about, I don't know, it was her, but talking about pain as our superpower, just like the book that this chiropractor wrote. Pain is a superpower. Let this pain be your friend. This is not your enemy. Your brain, it's in your brain. He goes to the point, Gemma, it was so fascinating. He was like, your ears don't hear, your nose doesn't smell, your eyes are not, it's your brain. So what, does your knee have pain? He was like, whoa, it's like, this is my language. And this is what kind of you're saying indirectly, because somebody might want to have that personality. Anyway, so I just love how we're connecting, because you're not speaking the Sarno language, but you're approaching it in such a phenomenal way. Now, let me ask you a question, and maybe you haven't had what if somebody's in so much pain, so much angst, that they're not listening to you, that they're not hearing you? Like, how do you reel them in and get them to understand?
I do discovery call before I work with anybody, and I would probably be able to tell in a discovery call that person is not going to be it's not the right time for them, or I'm not the right coach. It's never happened to me what you're describing. I will only take on a client if I'm 100% sure I can help them. If there's even a smidgen of a doubt in my mind that it's not TMS, I will not take the client on, because I believe that if I've got doubt, they will sense the doubt.
Of course.
So I think, and also I think because of the direction I kind of go, even if they're in so much pain, and I'll maybe do somatic tracking with them, but the thing is, they've been in pain for a very long time. So to wait an extra week or two to do strengths, I truly believe that lifts them up.
Right. Well, what about the doubt? I mean, I know you're on Dan Ratner's show. What about the doubt? What about them trusting you? Like, this takes time. And, I mean,
I honestly, it doesn't. So I ask clients a question on a scale of 1 to 10. How much do you believe that this is neuropathway pain? 10 being it's neuropathway pain, and 0 being it's not. And they'll give me an answer like 6. I'll say, great, it's a 6. What made you choose 6 as opposed to 0? And when answering that question, they're giving me all the evidence why they think it's neuropathway.
Yeah, no, it's the way you approach it. It's very good. I like it. I like the way you're approaching it. You sort of take a lot of the, you sort of get right to it.
Yeah.
To it. So let's answer Gina's question and see how you want to answer Gina.
I have dealt with stress my whole life. I just handled it with no pain or chronic pain. Yeah. Do you want me to answer that?
Please.
Okay. So this is just my opinion. So I would say that we are like pressure cookers, and we can go our whole life handling stuff. I did the same thing. I handled stuff. I took more and more things on. But you get to a point where you just can't take it anymore. Like, your nervous system's been in fight or flight for many, many, many years. And at some point, your body is just going to go, I can't take it anymore. And then it gives you physical pain. And it usually, something tips us into that physical pain. I say physical pain, you know what I mean? Like neuropathic pain. And the thing that usually pushes us over the edge, I tell you, with people I've worked with, it's either a death in the family, a redundancy, or relocation, or a major kind of surgery or illness. And COVID is the other one. People had COVID and suddenly afterwards.
Yeah.
But the emotional things around COVID, if you were already when we say at breaking point, if you are already at breaking point. Oh, and the other thing is children. People who have children that are 2 years old. I can't tell you how many men I've worked with. And
no matter how old your children are.
Kids, they're like, oh, 2. Oh, really?
So would you say that Gina, I would say that Gina has overcome adversity and been able to, but maybe she needs to get to the feelings and understanding the emotions that she repressed in order to manage and survive. And now the body's saying, wait, I need you to connect your conscious mind to your unconscious mind. I need you to be more in your heart. I mean, what would you suggest?
Sorry, I thought you were asking me
because you explain why she's in crisis. Yeah. Why is that she's not able to overcome it the way that she did before?
But she didn't overcome it before. She says, I dealt with stress my whole life. So she's
but I handled it with no pain or chronic pain. And now after the surgery, she's stuck with chronic pain. So what is she missing?
I would normalize this and say, you were a superhero for many, many years, Gina, and she handled everything. And gradually, over Gina's life, more and more things have been put on her plate because she's a people pleaser. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
And she's done really well to handle it this long. But then something happened, whether it's surgery or something else, or maybe if you look around that time of when that surgery was, maybe there was other emotional things happening as well. And then the body just can't take it anymore. And then we have chronic pain. And so I would say, when we say, well, why is that? I would say that's completely normal. That's how neural pathway works. So at this point, I would be thinking this is kind of good because it means it's most likely neural pathway pain, and therefore, recovery.
Right. I think Gina's not so much menopause. Okay, but menopause is not an excuse. Menopause is a normal. I mean, again, I'm not underestimating menopause. I'm 66 and I made sure that these hot flashes were not going to okay, so I'm sweating. Okay, so I really tried to dance with it because there's this is going to happen and this is going to happen and I've got my period. This is going to happen. I don't want to buy into, but it's hard to not to because we're brought up that way. Yeah. So I know Gina's been struggling. She's not a client, but I know that she's on the Facebook, and I know she's in the groups, and I know she's struggling. What would you recommend that she's not being able to move in this process in her healing? What would you recommend for her?
Well, I think there's probably maybe something to explore around the surgery. Did she want to have the surgery? How does she feel about the surgery? Did she feel safe with the surgeon? Did anybody give her false information? It was 30 years ago. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. It's. Do you know? So let me. I was telling you the 4-step process.
Yeah, please. Pain.
Let me just finish it because this might.
Personality. Yeah.
So I think Gina needs to ask herself a question. Do I believe this is neural pathway pain? That's the first P. And if you're not sure, if you're not 80, 90% sure it's neural pathway pain, there's no point carrying on because the rest of the exploration isn't, because your brain is still going to be in pain fear cycle because you're fearing the pain itself or symptoms. So the first P is pain. So Gina needs to decide, am I ready to move past the first P? The second P is the personality thing, which is are you doing stuff every day that lights you up? Are you enjoying life? No matter, even if your movement's restricted. Like, are you really actually being yourself? That's the second P.
Mhm.
The third P is pain. And I do a timeline with people from the day they were born, every single year until today's date.
Wow.
What happened to you emotionally? What happened to you
Beautiful.
physically? And then we map it all. And, that
Excellent.
exercise in itself, some people, look at it. I had a guy I worked with recently, I think he's in his 50s. And for the first time ever, he realized he changed schools 5 times by the age of
Yeah.
8 or something.
No, it's a
He
very
never
good
thought about it.
technique to really help people see and how they overcame that. At some point, the body's like, I can't do this alone. I need to make different connections and I need support and I need because we're living in survival mode and very good point. So pain,
Pain,
personality,
past, and then
path.
past. Now, I know that the TMS world is a bit divided on the do we
Don't
need to
worry. I love what you're talking about.
My opinion on past is journaling helped me significantly. It really did. I worked with coaches to process stuff that was there. That helps. But there comes time when you don't need to keep digging. There's not more to find.
I
And
agree. I agree.
and I also, whilst it was very therapeutic to go through and just once and for all journal it out. Okay, that happened, done, gone. Next thing, done, gone. I did one topic every day for 49 days as I followed the program on TMS Wiki. It was very therapeutic. I look back now and wonder if I actually needed to do that,
Okay.
because, and I say that because the clients I work with now, many of them don't need to go back and
Uh-huh.
do that.
Uh-huh.
So I think there's a danger that people fall into this, like, I've just got to find out what it is from my past that I need to process.
Very good point.
I think you just need to go, I think you need to realize it was in the past and today is not the past. Today is today.
It's your experience of it that you need to heal and
Yeah.
integrate or,
Yeah.
very
And
good point.
definitely something around forgiveness, I think, here as well, looking down that list, if there's
Yeah,
any anger or anything anyone needs to be forgiven, even if it's yourself. And then the last P is practical tools. And
love it.
the number one tool I recommend to everyone, just because it worked for me, is Yoga Nidra. I don't know. Are you familiar with
Love
Yoga
it.
Nidra?
Well, I know yoga, and I Nidra is a way to calm the body. Isn't that yoga
Yeah,
Nidra?
yeah. Yoga Nidra, oh, it's just incredible.
Love it.
It's not yoga at all. It's just you can find it on Insight Timer or YouTube. It's just somebody
It's
talking.
not physical.
No, you just lie there in the dark room, and this person says, "Close your eyes," and then do this, and it's like a body scan. But the
Yeah.
the idea of it is that you do not fall to sleep. So it's training your body to let go and surrender whilst your brain stays awake. So it's literally teaching your body to come out of fight or flight.
Wow.
It's so good. It's better than any cup
Beautiful.
of coffee for like
I
an
love
energy
it.
boost
I
for the
love
day.
it. I'm going to remember. I've heard it before. Just going to make a note of it. Yeah. So any yoga nidra, Neidra.
Uh,
Um,
Yoga and then Nidra, yeah.
NIE nidra.
Nidra.
And I know there's Insight Timers. It's a very good tool, and there's tons of stuff also on YouTube.
Mm.
But it's so interesting. And what other practical tools that you think are for the fourth P? Because it's really
Yeah,
wonderful in your program.
it depends on the client because by this point I already know what their strengths are. So, for example, if I can see that somebody got woo, the practical thing would be every day be with strangers. If
Right,
somebody
right.
there's a strength called input, which means they just love absorbing information and chewing on
Yeah,
it and spitting it out.
the practical tools are very personal, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of tools. And uh, I don't know where I was. Yeah, today in my study, I'm studying, learning Hebrew, and repetition, repetition, repetition. We're not saying
Yeah.
repetition, repetition, repetition. This is I imagine that's got to be. It's not, it doesn't begin with P, but it's got to be in there with,
It's true, and you're right. It does need to be tailored, and I think some people are super into breathing and meditation, and there's some people I would never even think to use the word
Dr.
meditation.
Hanskin, well, if he doesn't journal every day, he's going to have neuropathy in his feet. This is what works for him. This is not, but these, like it works if you work it. I love it. Like it works if you work it. And I'm big on the placebo. If you want it to work, if you imagine it's going to work, if you picture yourself, it's also going to work. The brain is just a piece of flesh.
Yeah.
And we give it this power, and our thoughts can sometimes not be trusted. Most of the time they shouldn't be trusted, and they need to be questioned, and they need to be turned around, and they need to serve you. So I love the way that you draw, because we're talking about somebody's strengths. It's the way they think, the way they process, the way they act, the way they behave. Down back to the thoughts. And that's why it's such a beautiful thing that you do with pain reprocessing therapy.
Yeah, so I can see.
I just wrote something, but it's interesting what Gina said about her surgeon.
Yeah, I think with this example, if she knew in the moment that something was going wrong with the surgery, that is trauma. Even if after the surgery everything was fine. So I'll give you an example. My daughter was born a C-section, because she was breech, and I knew something had gone wrong. And I remember crying on the operating table and not knowing what had gone wrong. But then the cord had got stuck around her neck, so it just took a really, really long time. And I could feel the energy in the room that, and so in that moment, and it was 3 minutes, maybe, let's say. But then she was born and she was healthy and it was fine. And I forgot about it. I didn't think about it ever again for like years and years and years. And then when I started going through all this TMS stuff and really started thinking about the timeline, what had happened and when, I started journaling about that. And all this emotion came up. But I didn't know it was there. I didn't know the emotion was there. And it was just fear. So, but luckily I was able to journal a lot of the things. Sometimes you can't journal because it's too painful and you need someone just to hold that space.
You stuff it. You don't want to think about it. And then all of a sudden it comes out and it's freeing. It's freeing.
So I think maybe for Gina, there might be a bit of exploration around, like, for example, can she write a letter to the surgeon telling him exactly how she feels? Do not send it, Gina.
Burn it.
Put it in there. What do you feel, Gina?
Or send it. What's the difference?
Or like write to somebody else that was in that room, or pretend you are a nurse watching the thing and write a letter.
Beautiful.
Pretend you're the surgeon writing a letter to you. Like, there's different ways.
Very beautiful.
Imagine you having a dialogue with him. You say something and then you write what you think he would say, and so on and so on.
Imagine you being the surgeon and doing it better.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, oh my goodness, Gemma, we've gone a long time.
I've really enjoyed this talk, though.
No, it's really it's so fascinating, and I really would love to have come on with Matthew. It'd be very interesting. Tell me, Gemma, what would you, if there was one thing you'd want to leave with listeners? I mean, there's so many things, so many incredible jewels in your treasure box, but if there was one thing you'd want to leave with listeners and people to leave them to inspire, what would you want to say?
It's a tough one. There's so much, isn't there? One thing I want to say to people is get back on with living, regardless of the symptoms, And I know that's not easy depending on the symptoms, but you can only get back on living if you know what lights you up. So figure out what lights you up and go do it. Read a book that lights you up. Stop reading TMS books.
Right. Honest to God, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, you know, absolutely.
Surround
This is
yourself
very important. Very,
surround yourself with just normal stuff. Get rid
yeah,
of all
yeah,
the fancy pillows and the mattresses and all of these support things. You don't want to see them. Hide the medication in a box so you can't see it. You don't want
yeah,
any reminders. Just
yeah.
live your life, play to your strengths, be you, think about that authenticity. And yeah,
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm so happy that we met. I'm so happy that we became colleagues and friends. And if anybody wants Gemma's information, it'll be on the YouTube where you can reach her. Sounds like an amazing test. It's something really, and you've been on the Dan Ratner show. Eddie's interviewed you, so it'll be very exciting to to see that it's being accepted in the field. And I imagine it's nothing new under the sun. This is really what people need to know. They need to know themselves. They need to love themselves. They need to accept themselves. They need to own their power, and they need to believe that they can heal. And so, thank you so very much for staying up late with me. It's nighttime. We're both Gem and I are at it's nighttime. So
yeah.
we will meet again. And until then, God bless.
Thank
Okay, all
you.
the best.
Thanks,
Good
Gemma.
night. Okay, we are off.